guys, it's Reagan and welcome back to another video. I'm personally so excited about today's topic, though my wallet may not be, not to mention I'm moving in a few months and honestly have no more space for books. But regardless, today we're going to be talking about my personal, most anticipated summer book releases because oh my goodness, there are so many. Like, prepare yourself. But before we dive into the video itself, first a word from this video sponsor, which is Glasses USA. As you guys may be familiar with, I have been a longtime fan and ambassador of Glasses USA. Every single pair of glasses I own is from this site. Essentially, if you're not familiar, Glasses USA is an online glasses retailer and they essentially have thousands upon thousands of different frames, from glasses to sunglasses. They're truly an incredible option as they actually cut out the middleman, resulting in prices that are significantly less than you would find shopping in person for frames. Not to mention they are often running really incredible sales on top of their already affordable prices, allowing you to get up to 60 to 70% off some of your favorite frames. Overall, it is super easy to shop on their site. It's really easy to sort by frame type or color that you're looking for. Not to mention they also have a really handy online try tool so you can see what the frames look like on your face before purchasing. Everything is delivered right to your door. You can also get things like blue light coating on your frames as well, which is super handy, especially for all the screen time, at least, that I'm dealing with. I, of course, have an offer for you guys, which I will leave linked down below, but I did pick up a few new frames for the summer months, which I'm really jazzed to show off. So without further ado, let's have a bit of a glasses haul. The first pair I'm actually wearing on my face, and I actually picked these up in my last haul, but they're just honestly one of my all-time new faves, so I wanted to show them off again. I also think they're absolutely perfect for the summer months, and just in general, a really flattering frame shape, and there are so many colors available as well. But these are the Muse X Hilary Duff Claire frames, and I have these in the clear beige color, but again, so many different options. They're really well made, but also still lightweight, which I feel like is really important for kind of a thicker frame. I also love that it has a bit of color, but it is clear. And in general, I just think it looks really nice. Like, if we're being honest, I just think it's a really flattering eyeglass, and I have been loving it so much since I picked it up a few months ago. So I wanted to give them a shout out again because they're just too good to not get. Next up, I think, is just an incredible pair. And honestly, if you've been watching my channel for any amount of time, you would know that my favorite type of glasses to wear is the gold wire rim frame. It's by far and away my go-to frame, and these are just an amazing option. These are called the Auto Atrium and the medium size in the color gold, and these are a really affordable option for this frame type. I honestly think these are amazing quality. They're also lightweight, and I got a blue light coating on these for my long days at the computer. I also wanted to shout that these are a much more affordable option, especially for this type of frame, and they're often on sale on Glasses USA, so if you've been in the market for a round gold rim frame, definitely check these out. Again, super cute, a great size, and often on sale. How can you say no? And the last pair of frames I picked up are my more adventurous option, and these are the Muse Mitchell in the clear green color. I honestly was just really drawn to this green. I thought it was interesting and definitely different than anything else I owned, but I do want to say they have a lot of color options for this particular frame as well, so if you like the shape, there are some more neutral shades. This is a classic frame shape. I like the size of the frame itself, and in a lot of ways it makes me feel like an art curator, if I'm being honest with you. Yeah, I just thought they were super cute, and I thought these would carry me well throughout the summer, but I also felt it would work really well in the fall and winter as well. A very all-season frame, you know what I mean? But with a bit of pop of color. Alrighty guys, those are the new frames I've picked up from Glasses USA. Again, I'll have a link to all of the frames I showed off today down below, as well as a special discount code for you guys. Big shout out to Glasses USA for partnering again with me for this video, as I am always a big fan, but let's jump back into the most anticipated summer releases. Alrighty, so as I've already said, the summer releases coming out in the next few months are no joke. There are so many fantasy books that I cannot wait to pick up. I have an overflowing TBR, but I do not think that's gonna stop me from buying all of these and trying to read them immediately. I'm gonna be chatting through book releases from May to early August. I'm going to be chatting about them in order of release, and I will also try to link everything down below for you guys for easy reference. And the first book I'm gonna be chatting about is The Shadow of Gods by John Gwynne. John Gwynne is a pretty well-loved author. He's really known for his Malice series, which I have not read, but this particular release has gotten so much early buzz and a lot of really strong early reviews, and honestly, I love the idea of starting a new series as it begins, and the general plot and premise definitely call call out to me, as this is a Norse-inspired world said to be full of myth, magic, and bloody vengeance. I hear his other series has a lot of different points of view, which for the most part is something I generally enjoy within epic fantasy. And again, this is the first book to a new epic fantasy series. Essentially, this is set in a fantasy world where there was a war between the gods which led to their extinction, and the cataclysm of their fall also shattered the land of Vigiro. Now a new world is rising, and the bones of those once powerful gods hold a lot of power for those brave enough to seek them out. I hear this has a lot of political intrigue as well as combat, as this is definitely about a simmering war on the horizon. I love that it's Norse mythology inspired, and in general fantasy stories with the gods come to earth element or like extinct gods is always something I personally find really intriguing. I'm also excited to finally pick up a book by this author, so why not start with this new series coming out in early May. The next book that is definitely on my must-buy list is the Master of Djinn. Everything about this synopsis calls out to me. The setting, the fantastical influence, even the author who blurbed it is one of my all-time favorite authors. I just feel like I'm going to fall in love with this world and story. This is set in 1912 in Cairo, and we essentially follow our main character, Agent Fatma, and she is the youngest woman ever to be working at the Ministry of Alchemy, but she is no rookie, especially because she prevented the destruction of the universe last summer. So when murders begin to occur in one of the most famous brotherhoods of alchemy, she is put on the case. Essentially, we follow her, her colleagues, and her girlfriend as she tries to figure out what in the world is going on. And so many different things about the synopsis call out to me. I love the historical setting, I love the alchemic steampunk quality to the narrative, and not to mention I feel like this is going to be a really fun sort of geopolitical thriller too, so I feel like it's going to be a really fast read as well. It just sounds like an absolute page turner as well as so much fun. Next book that's on my list is Blackwater Sister by Zen Cho. This is a contemporary fantasy set in Malaysia and honestly just sounds unbelievably enchanting. In this story we follow our main character Jasmine, who is broke, closeted, and moving back to Malaysia, a country she hasn't lived in since she was a toddler. So when Jess begins hearing voices shortly after moving back, she chalks it up to stress. However, it's only ever one voice, and they claim to be her estranged grandmother, who's also a spirit medium and avatar to the Blackwater sister in life. Once she begins hearing this voice, she's pulled into this larger conspiracy as her grandmother is wanting to take revenge against a very powerful mob boss. From there, Jess begins to get drawn into the world of gods and spirits, and essentially is beginning to unlock secrets of her family, and is also just trying to make it through the day. Honestly, this just sounds really, really interesting. I also recently finished a book that had the Malaysian spiritual realm kind of central in the story, and I really, really loved it. So when I read this particular synopsis, I knew I had to pick it up. Next book that is on my list is Black Tongue Thief, which I heard about from Petrick's channel, who in general just has incredible fantasy recommendations, so I will leave a link to their channel down below. Definitely check them out. But this particular book really called out to me as there was actually some parallels made between the Queen Thief series and this. It's said to have a really fun group of like ragtag individuals, thieves kind of coming together and going off on an adventure, and the overall synopsis personally really called out to me as it sounds like dark and intense but also something full of humor. Essentially, we follow our main character Kinch, who is a thief. He's really good at stealing stuff, and that's kind of how he makes his way in the world. However, one day he picks the wrong target and accidentally tries to steal from a very powerful knight. Unsuccessful and lucky to still be alive, he now finds his fate intertwined. This powerful knight and handmaiden to a goddess, and I think from there they go off on an adventure. I'm hopeful this will have both strong character building but still really staying true to that sort of quest-like structure that seems to be very central to the overall story. I have high hopes for this one, and I just really want it to be a good time, if I'm being honest. Next up, and the last book released for the month of May, is The Kingdoms, and this is said to be for fans of 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle as well as David Mitchell. It's said to be a genre-bending alternate history book about changing the past to save the future. I personally love stories that kind of play with history as well as time and kind of changing the past to impact the future. And essentially this has a very vague synopsis, and we follow our main character Joe, who has a really bad case of amnesia, and he's stepping off a train remembering nothing about his life. The only thing that is a clue to who he was is a postcard with a picture of a lighthouse on it, as well as a small letter written by a character named M. He's now determined to try to figure out and track down this person M in hopes of filling the gaps of his lost memory. This just sounds really intriguing and dark. The overall byline personally really sold me. Like, I really didn't need to hear more than genre-bending alternate history to really want to pick this book up, but this one sounds like it could possibly be one that blows my mind, but we shall see. Next up, we have our first book release of June, and that is For the Wolf. This is a story that honestly just feels like it's right up my alley. This is said to be fans for The Bear and the Nightingale as well as Uprooted, two of my all-time favorite books. It seems to me that it's going to be a lyrical fairy tale inspired story, which are always some of my favorites, and it essentially follows a young woman who has been sacrificed to the wolf of the woods. It says from there that the legend is a lie. The wolf is a man, not a monster. Her magic is a calling, not a curse, and if she doesn't learn how to use it, the monster the gods have become will swallow the wilder wood. Again, this sounds like it might have a really twisty narrative style. I'm hoping for some romance, and in general, just a lot of ambiance and a magical wood setting. Like, what more could I want? Not much, to be honest. Next up is the first book to a new trilogy that just sounds so good, and that is the Jasmine Throne. This is a new fantasy trilogy set in a world inspired by the epics of India. And essentially, we follow a captive princess and a maidservant in possession of forbidden magic who become unlikely allies and try to work together to save the kingdom, the princess's traitor brother. I mean, honestly, need I say more? We've got unlikely allies, probably enemies to lovers. We've got to overthrow a corrupt government. This just sounds like a really fun first book to a new trilogy. Also has really strong early reviews. I'm also really interested as this is inspired by the epics of India. Just all in all, definitely will be pre-ordering. The next book honestly just has such an incredible hook. I really didn't want to read any more of the synopsis after just reading the first 2 lines, because once I read it, I knew I wanted to read it and I wanted to be surprised by the overall narrative, and that is Blood Like Magic. And this is a rich, dark, urban fantasy story, essentially following our main character, who is a young girl who has to sacrifice her first love to save her family's magic. However, she's not currently in love, which means she has to go out and fall in love with someone to then ultimately kill them. I mean, like, what more do you need to hear? And seriously, those 2 lines alone completely sold me. That just sounds dark and twisted, pressure from family and like wanting to save your heritage, but at what cost? You have to fall in love and kill someone? It just sounds so dark, and I have no idea how our main character is gonna get out of this, but it sounds stressful, and I can't wait to read and find out. Not to mention that the cover of this is absolutely stunning, and I just feel like this is going to be a wild ride, and I don't want to read any more of the synopsis besides the fact that our main character has to fall in love and then kill them. Incredible. The next book that is definitely on my list is Gearbreakers, and this is said to be for fans of Pacific Rim as well as Red Rising. This honestly just sounds so cool, and it's very like mecha inspired combat focus, which just honestly sounds like so much fun. And this is set in a world where the shadow of Gedolia's tyrannical rule is starting to spread, and they're able to do this with their powerful mechanized warriors called windups. Essentially, oppression and violence are everyday occurrences for the people of the Badlands. One of our main characters, Eris, is a Gearbreaker, a rebel kind of dedicating her entire life for fighting against these mechanized machines. However, at the beginning of the book, she's arrested, where she meets her other main character, Sona, a cybernetically enhanced pilot of these very machines that she has dedicated her life to fight against. Their lives and fates begin to be intertwined. I hear this has an excellent sapphic romance. The overall premise of these giant machines really sounds honestly awesome. And in general, I think it just sounds like a lot of fun. Like, I'm hoping it's just full of adventure, destruction, and again, romance. So this is definitely on my list to pick up. The next book that's on my list is probably one of, if not my most anticipated book of the year. I have been counting down the months for this particular release, as I just feel like it's going to become an all-new fave. And that is She Who Became the Sun. And this is said to be Mulan meets the Song of Achilles. It is a bold, queer reimagining of the rise of the Emperor of the Ming Dynasty. And overall, this is said to be an amazing new voice within literary fantasy. I'm really excited about the historical influence of this, combining with what I imagine is just beautiful, lyrical, heartbreaking writing. I recently read The Song of Achilles and absolutely loved it, and in general, I just really love literary fantasy. This is just one, again, I've been counting down for the release, as I feel like I'm going to love it so much. But yeah, definitely add this to your list if you haven't already. And the last book I'm going to be chatting about today is The Hand of the Sun King, another book I found out from Patrick's channel. Seriously, check him out down below. So this particular book just sounds honestly unusual, very literary, very lyrical. and in a lot of ways something that is exactly up my alley. But honestly, I was called to this book immediately when I read the synopsis. It's very unusual, and it's actually kind of written in a very specific POV, like first person talking to us. So because of that, I actually feel like I'm just going to read it, which I don't usually do, but I feel like it's just the best way to get a vibe for what this book is about. And it is, my name is Wynne Adler. My name is Foolish Cur. All my life I have been torn between two legacies. That of my father, whose roots trace back to the right hand of the emperor. That of my mother's family, who reject the oppressive empire and embrace the resistance. I can choose between them, between protecting my family or protecting my people. Or I can search out a better path, a magical path filled with secrets unbound by the empire or resistance, which could shake my world to its very foundations. Need I say more? Immediately pre-ordering, immediately buying. It sounds so good. Weird, I vibe with it. I love it. Just, I'm into it. That's all I'm trying to say. Alrighty guys, those are my most anticipated summer book releases. Again, I'll have all of the titles as well as a link to my glasses I featured down below, so be sure to check that out. Big shout out again to Glasses USA for sponsoring this video, but I will see you guys soon with another video soon.